Heart and Soul mini-series Adventurelands, Part 5. In my plentiful free time, while Headmaster Mom was working, I've managed to discover countless crawl spaces all over the campus. So far, whenever I've really needed one, there's always been a perfectly dark air vent close by. Somehow, despite being a growing girl, those strange hiding spots were always just big enough for my tiny frame to fit into. So, even when someone came close to catching me breaking some stupid rule that should never have been a rule in the first place, I've always managed to scramble away to a hiding spot before anyone was able to prove I'd ever been there. It was like a gift, one that had only cost me my home, my family, any real friends I might have made, and the life I should have had in general. I wish every day I could return this terrible gift to whatever evil damned store it was from. Even something like having a Fabergé egg permanently attached to the top of my skull would have been a million times more useful, and equally less expensive. From what I've picked up crawling around in air vents at school, the nuns were too busy trying to repair the church to pack anything for me. I'm sure they were also deciding on the best way to excommunicate me. Luckily for me, before they reached any conclusion, several of the most famous PKers had come personally to collect me for the headmaster. As they did so, they also commandeered a bunch of other stuff from the church, claiming some things for me, a few others for the headmaster or the crown, or the GM themselves. As a baby, I hadn't owned anything yet, so the things that they grabbed must have belonged to other kids or the church itself. I'd occasionally overheard teachers chatting about how the nuns were trying desperately to recover some of the commandeered items, though I honestly couldn't guess which ones, or why. But even if I'd known what they were after, I doubted that I could easily give up any of those things. As a kid with nothing else to tie me to any kind of a past, the few things that the PKers had acquired for me were my most treasured belongings. Honestly, I wasn't even sure what half of them were, but I treasured them anyway. Once I was old enough to start working a few odd babysitting jobs here and there, I managed to buy a few trendy things for myself, but I still treasured those stolen toys above anything else, always keeping them safe in a locked box in my closet. Since the headmaster had adopted me as a baby, I've spent my entire life in this school. I grew up surrounded by the most potent and varied magics every student could imagine. Spending so much time as an impressionable child surrounded by such a wide variety of powerful magic has sharpened my intuition for the strange energy. As far as I can tell, my gut feelings are more accurate than even Headmaster Mom's. I've easily managed to pick the winner of nearly every duel I've ever watched since the headmaster first let me join her in the spectator's booth when I was 5. The kinds of spell work that I regularly saw growing up, especially from some of the more creative students, has widened my perspective on what magic is actually capable of. When I was young and Mom didn't want to leave me home alone, I assume in fear that I'd break something important in the house, whenever the headmaster was working, she'd let me wander the school. She knew that with so many professors everywhere, I was as safe as a child could be. Thanks to all the time that I've had in that school, along with my natural magical intuition, I've gotten to know some of the best young magicians on the continent. I've even watched them grow into the most incredibly powerful sorcerers ever forged. Magicians capable of conceiving the most fantastic spells ever imagined, then carefully coercing them into our reality with the sheer force of will.